NATO chief Mark Rutte is heading to Washington for talks with high-ranking American officials amid fears the U.S. could abandon a peace agreement in Ukraine. Over the course of his two-day visit, the NATO chief will meet U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and a National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. Mr. Rutte is likely to discuss support for Kyiv after President Donald Trump, as we heard earlier, accused his Ukrainian counterpart of blocking a deal with Moscow by refusing to accept Russian control of Crimea. And for more, Kate Fisher joins us live from Washington, D.C. Kate, apart from who Mr. Rutte is likely to meet, we do not have much more detail on what will happen when he is in Washington. What's likely to happen that you might know of?
Yeah, you're right. There is very few advanced details other than the fact that that meeting will take place this afternoon here in Washington, 3 p.m. local time at the State Department. He'll be meeting all three of those officials that you just listed. And I think we can be pretty certain that Ukraine will be top of the agenda, as well as, you know, the US involvement in NATO and the US's frustrations, of course, well documented about the European members of NATO and how much money, how much percentage of their gross domestic product goes to defense spending. That's no doubt going to be mentioned. But Ukraine will be top of the agenda. We're at this stage where the US is demanding a kind of take it or leave it stance with Ukraine. They have said there is no way that they can recognize Crimea as being in Russian hands. But the US seems frustrated by that. Donald Trump yesterday saying this is very harmful. This attitude from President Zelensky of Ukraine is very harmful to peace efforts and inflammatory. So, you know, he's really putting the pressure on Zelensky there. But then just a few minutes ago on Truth Social, his social media platform, he has put that I am not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. They're not necessary. Very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done. So he's also angry at Russia.
Kate, we also mentioned Mr. Trump saying Crimea, that's not a point for discussion. But for him, as far as a peace deal involving Ukraine and Russia are concerned, what might be on that deal is minerals from Ukraine. And there might actually be some progress on that particular front.
Well, Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, last night here in Washington said that, yes, he wanted to conclude these negotiations as soon as possible. He essentially wants to seal a deal by Saturday, he says. He says that the conclusion of technical talks and signing the economic partnership between the US and Ukraine needs to happen as soon as possible. And he described talks with the Ukrainian Prime Minister, who's here in Washington, as highly productive. So there's certainly, positive language coming out of the White House over this minerals deal, which it's hard to know exactly how much this is going to be part of a peace deal overall, whether if this minerals deal gets signed, that will give the Ukraine perhaps more leverage when it comes to negotiations with Russia, and certainly perhaps put the US more favorably looking towards Ukraine because it now has this vested economic interest. We haven't got as far as that, but clearly these are all moving parts. And there is now a strong language from the White House suggesting that they want this minerals deal signed as soon as possible.
And those moving parts might move a little bit faster with the NATO chief in Washington. Thanks, Kate Fisher, there reporting live from Washington, D.C.